Hey folks, welcome into NFL Daily presented by Man Crates. I am Cam Rogers. That guy right there is Tom Downey. We've got you guys covered for the next hour. Potential trades within the AFC, Tom. Most likely not going to happen, but we will have fun with them.
We're having fun with it. All these players, for the most part, have some type of reasoning behind it, even some outright rumors there. So have some fun with it. If you don't like the value, let me know in the comments section, and we can adjust for a future show.
We know humor is lacking at times in the YouTube comments. So with that, channel your inner humor, if you will, folks. Let's start things off with Teddy Bridgewater, a member of the New York Jets. And he's kind of stuck in this purgatory on the depth chart here, Tom. You got McCown, the stopgap option. You got Darnold, the future.
I think that the Jets are trying to hype up Teddy Bridgewater. You read some of the reports from Jets beat writers like, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, he looks really good in OTAs and in minicamp. And we know that Teddy, of course, is not the long-term option for the Jets. That is Sam Darnold. I think that Josh McCown makes more sense as an intermediate stopgap. And if Sam Darnold can prove he's the backup quarterback, I do think it makes sense for the Jets to try to trade Teddy Bridgewater and have an extra pick coming back in return. And we've seen it in many years past. A quarterback goes down, and all of a sudden a backup gets traded for way more than he might actually be worth. Sam Bradford.
Exactly. So let's go to the trade details here, Tom, of what you have proposed. You got the Jets sending Bridgewater to the Carolina Panthers, a team in the market for a backup quarterback.
I just picked the Panthers because I wanted to find a team like, okay, if their starting quarterback gets hurt, how screwed are they? And Carolina's dead. They are dead in the water unless you think Garrett Gilbert, Taylor Henneke, or Kyle Allen is a reliable quarterback, which they're not. So I picked the Panthers. Maybe you can even get more from them if you're the Jets, if Newton gets hurt, which hopefully that doesn't happen, but there are quite a few teams out there, we'll get to some others later in the show, that if their starting quarterback goes down, they are in desperate need of quarterback help. And a team like Carolina, a playoff team last year, I think makes some sense if they're going to go try and get somebody.
I think the Panthers are the most backup quarterback needy team out there in the NFL.
I think they are the second most. We'll get to the most needy team later on in the show.
All right, Teddy Bridgewater for a fourth rounder. Who says no to that? Neither team. Both teams, the Jets only, or the Carolina Panthers. I don't think the Panthers say no.
Maybe right now Panthers say no because they're Cam Newton healthy, but if Cam Newton goes down, maybe it's the Jets who say no because they want more.
Ooh, supply and demand,
I'm trying to find a middle ground for all these trades, guys.
All right, let's go to the AFC East team, the Buffalo Bills. Shaq Lawson perhaps being traded away from Buffalo. And there has been some buzz out there that he could be on the chopping block.
I don't know how much I actually believe that, because we'll bring up the Bills' depth chart here at defensive end, and Cam, I don't think it's all that good. When you take away Shaq Lawson, you're looking. I mean, obviously, I like guys like Jerry Hughes and Trent Murphy. I still think they're a little bit thin, and I don't think it's going to be to trade away edge rushers unless you're a team like Denver, hint, hint, that have a lot of depth there. So I don't know how much I actually believe it. There was one report the Bills could cut Shaq Lawson, which makes no sense based on his contract. So, and that's where this trade rumor kind of originated from. That's why I don't fully believe it right now.
I like Hughes. I like Murphy. I think Ryan Davis is all right as well. So I think Buffalo, well, first of all, in the NFL, you can never have enough edge rushers, kind of like you can never have enough cornerbacks.
Exactly.
A team that is in need of an edge rusher, the San Francisco 49ers, could perhaps make a move for Shaq Lawson. In exchange, Buffalo gets a conditional fourth-round pick.
I think this makes a lot of sense for your Niners, Cam. Because as host of the 49ers Report, you've mentioned this many times to me, they're looking for some more options at that Leo spot. I think this kind of solidifies it.
They struggled last year in creating sacks. Pretty sure Elvis Dumervil was top the line, and he's no longer on the team. So Solomon Thomas is an option. He is trying to work on his pass rushing ability. Atachu comes on over from LA. You got Cassius Marsh, who showed some signs last year, but he's not a regular guy. He's a rotational guy at best. And the Eli Harold's a linebacker.
Yeah,
and
same with Peta.
More of a Sam guy, to be honest with you.
I threw him in there because there wasn't enough depth.
Exactly. So that's the point. I mean, maybe they make a move for Shaq Lawson, and the 49ers have the salary cap space to really ingest any sort of contract. That's why they were in the Des Bryant discussions as well. So I think the 49ers would be on board with it. But I don't know if the Bills would be, to be honest with you. I think the Bills might say no.
I think that it might not be enough for the Bills to go Shaq Lawson. That's why I made it a conditional pick. If he does well or the Dolphins make the playoffs, whatever, it can be bumped up to a third-round selection. But, Cam, we saw how little they gave away Reggie Ragland for a future fourth-round pick, which I thought was underselling. I thought he was pretty good for the Chiefs. But the Bills have shown a willingness to say, hey, you know what? This is a guy from the previous regime. We're going to cut ties altogether.
All right, we'll see if that trade goes down. Perhaps this one could with the Miami Dolphins. Leonte Carroo, wide receiver there, been dealing with some injuries, Tom.
Yeah, I also just don't think he's all that good. Like, the trade for Leonte Carroo originally, the Dolphins gave a future pick to get him, I didn't like. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And now that he has a chance to become the guy in Miami, but they brought in Albert Wilson, they brought in Danny Amendola, they have Devontae Parker, they have Kenny Stills as that deep threat, and Jakeem Grant, I think they like more than Carroo. Even Rashawn Scott got some reps down the stretch over Carroo at the end of the year. I think he's the odd man out. But Cam, there are teams that need wide receiver help out there.
Desperately. The Indianapolis Colts included, so perhaps they make a deal here for Carroo for a 6th-round pick. You look at the depth chart for Indianapolis, it's T.Y. Hilton, Ryan Grant, Chester Rogers, and it just drops and drops and drops. That's why the Colts have been at the center of Dez Bryant discussions as well. Maybe Carroo could be a guy they get.
Look, I saw a comment from Caleb on YouTube asking about the Colts trades. Here's one of the ones we have for you. I don't know if Carroo is going to be a long-term option for any NFL team, but if you're the Colts, why not take a chance on him? I think that Fontaine and Kane each need a year. Can, Carroo beat out a Chester Rogers or at least a James Wright? I think
maybe.
so. So I think it's a low-risk flyer on a player that maybe can become a more long-term option for you down the road. That's what the Colts should be doing since they are in a bit of a rebuilding season, Cam.
All right, so there you go. Indianapolis could be making a move with Miami. Let's take a look at the New England Patriots and Shaq Mason perhaps being dealt. And the logic here, Tom, is because of the offensive line depth chart, Shaq Mason's contract just makes sense.
This is a Jamie Collins type trade for the Patriots, where they get rid of a very talented player, but that they're just probably not going to be able to afford long term. And I like Mason quite a bit. He was a very reliable guard, especially in the run game for the Patriots. And the big reason for them to say, maybe, you know what, we don't want to do this, Shaq Mason probably isn't going to get Zach Martin money, but he might ask for something close to it. He and Andrew Norwell, Martin and Norwell reset the contract market for guards overall. Shaq Mason's going to want a lot of money. So I sent him, Cam, to a team that has some cap space to play with and desperately needs offensive line.
Yes, the Houston Texans desperately need help along that front five. Shaq Mason will certainly aid on that interior. Houston sends a conditional 3rd-round pick to the New England Patriots, which they would gladly take, I think.
So a 3rd-round pick is, I think, kind of the starting point in any trade discussion for a Shaq Mason type of player, because the Patriots, you would think, would get something close back to that in the compensatory draft selections. Houston doesn't want to give up too much because they have to pay him. That's why typically you don't see trades go down, because having to pay somebody and giving him a draft pick, that's doubling down on one player.
It's not like Madden, folks.
It's not like Madden. So, but I think when you look at Houston, Zach Fulton they paid a good amount of money to. I think Cino is more of a backup guard.
Kyle Fuller, pretty sure he's a cornerback.
Yes, but also no. This is Baylor's Kyle Fuller, who was almost more of a center. And then David Quisenberry is a nice story, but not the best player. So I think this makes a lot of sense for both sides, especially if the Patriots are willing to play Isaiah Wynn at guard, and they still like Joe Thuney out there.
Yeah, I think the Jamie Collins reference is actually a good way to put it. That's kind of how New England types in the past have done these type of trades, is kind of with that Jamie Collins mindset in mind, where you don't want to shell out a big-time money.
They've got the money in mind that they want to pay for a player, and they will not go above it.
All right, let's go to the AFC North. Start things off with the Cincinnati Bengals, as Man Crates shows us Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals, Tom.
I almost put down John Ross, but I'm like, nah, even the Bengals won't give up on John Ross after
Marvin Lewis would be fired.
Marvin Lewis hates John Ross, and he also doesn't seem to like Tyler Boyd. And Boyd was a guy I really liked coming out of Pitt. I thought he was a good pick in round 2, a reliable player, and he hasn't been all that good for the Bengals in the NFL. And he's fallen out of favor. He's a slot guy. Ross and Lethal, I think, are above him. And then there are guys like Cody Core, who I like in Cincinnati. Even guys like Josh Malone, who was a mid-round pick. Even an Alex Erickson, who was playing over others down the stretch last year, including John Ross. He's a tight end, by the way. Or at least he should be. So I found a team that the Bengals have had good trade relationships with as of late.
They have, Tom. The Buffalo Bills. They get Tyler Boyd, and Cincinnati gets a 6th-round pick. Tom, you're in reference to, of course, the Corey Glenn deal, among others.
Yeah, A.J. McCarron went there. They brought in Preston Brown. So the two sides seem to get along quite a bit. And Cam, we'll talk about other receivers. Every single one I almost put down for the Bills, because this receiving depth chart is awful. You got Kelvin Benjamin, Zay Jones, Andre Holmes, Jeremy Curley, and Rod Streeters are the definition of retreads around the NFL. And then it's a bunch of young guys that were late or undrafted picks. Robert Foster had 14 catches, got some reps with the ones. Tyler Boyd, Zay Jones, Kelvin Benjamin is not great, but it's better than what they got right now, and you give up a 6th-round pick to get him.
That's not a depth chart, Tom. That's a chart.
Good point.
That's all it is.
There's no depth.
Buffalo definitely thirsty for some wide receiver help. Who says no to the Tyler Boyd deal for a 6th-rounder? Neither team, both teams. Cincinnati or Buffalo? I don't think Buffalo would say no when it's a wide receiver.
It was a former 2nd-round pick. I don't know if it's enough for the Bengals, but I could see it actually going down.
All right, because
I think this is one of the ones I think is a little bit more equal value.
Okay.
It's the most equal value.
It's a good trade, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, let's go to the Baltimore Ravens because they made the crazy decision to select a couple of high draft picks at the tight end position, Andrews, Hayden Hurst. So let's deal one of the former high-end selections in Maxx Williams because he didn't pan out. Here's the deal with the Baltimore Ravens.
This was a double whammy because I got to listen to Cam vent about the Ravens tight end draft picks.
So brutal. Maxx Williams has just not panned out, Tom.
I thought he was going to be pretty good coming out of Minnesota, so he falls in the Tyler Boyd category of players I like, that NFL teams liked, and just didn't emerge. Hurst and Andrews are your top 2 guys. Nick Boyle can be a nice number 3 guy. That leaves Maxx Williams on the outs. Good news is, Cam, there is one team in particular that desperately needs a tight end.
Yes, Tom. The LA Chargers lost Hunter Henry to an ACL. So with that, it's Virgil Green and a bunch of made-up people. So maybe the Chargers trade away a 7th-round conditional pick to grab Maxx Williams.
Go up to him even as high as a 5th-round pick if he plays really well. But this is a more sensible trade for LA than the Gronkowski trades I've seen thrown out there. Because Hunter Henry comes back after a year,
Sure.
and then you can make Williams into your number 3 or you say goodbye in free agency. He's a stopgap option who has some upside to at least compete, and maybe if he ends up not making the roster at all, the Chargers don't have to send a pick, kind of like in that Christian Hackenberg trade.
Exactly. All right, so Williams for a 7th-rounder. Hit us up in this reaction poll. Let us know who wins that deal.
Is it enough for you?
No.
What do you want for Maxx Williams, Cam?
I mean, a 6th-rounder would have been nice, but a conditional I think is okay.
Okay.
Since
So
you
we
have
split
the
the difference
conditional
there.
down, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I'll live with that.
Thank
Now, Pittsburgh, Joshua Dobbs, been at the center of some rumors that perhaps he's done with Pittsburgh.
When the Steelers first drafted Mason Rudolph, I thought, oh, this means that Landry Jones is done, right?
Apparently
I was
not.
wrong. I'll admit it. I was wrong about this one because the reports coming out of Pittsburgh is that it's actually Joshua Dobbs who is the odd man out with the Steelers, which is a whole nother debate because why'd you spend a 3rd-round pick on him if you're going to dump him after a year? That's not good return on investment. Now,
No.
You mentioned this off the air, Cam. Maybe just not that good. And that's kind of what I thought. I did not have that high of a grade on Dobbs coming out. I thought his ceiling was as a good backup quarterback because of his intelligence. I didn't think the physical tools were there, really.
So not ability. And maybe Seattle could use him. Here's a little bit of a trade scenario.
I like this trade a lot, actually.
With Pittsburgh getting a 6th-round pick, conditional at that. Yeah, I mean, Seattle has Austin Davis, proven loser, and Alex Magoo PU, who we just don't know about. So, I mean, after Russell Wilson, it's bad.
If Russell Wilson goes down, the Seahawks team is the worst team in the NFL. Like,
Yes.
you know the Colts are about with Andrew Luck? Imagine turning to Austin Davis and Alex Magoo. It's bad.
It's so bad.
So Josh Dobbs only fetches a 6th-round pick, Cam, because, well, if the Steelers are going to cut him, Seattle can just wait, right? So you don't actually end up having to give all that much there. So I don't like it at all for Steelers to having to trade Joshua Dobbs, but you at least get something back, Cam, as opposed to cutting him.
All right, so that's one scenario there within the AFC North. Let's wrap it up with the Browns and perhaps Corey Coleman on his way out, according to, who said it? The best wide receiver core in the NFL. Who
that
said
was Josh Gordon.
That was Josh Gordon.
And then the Cleveland Plain Dealer said that Coleman is available at the right price. And my issue for this trade was, Cam, and I do want to see what the guys on YouTube and Facebook say about this trade offer that I have here. I don't know what at the right price is for Corey Coleman. Because you've got a former 1st-round pick, yes, but hasn't done much of anything, has been banged up a lot, and has a not that small contract. The Browns can't cut him because they're going to eat an extra $2 million. So I am very curious what the proper value is for Corey Coleman, and I am worried a little bit that I didn't give enough value back in exchange, even though I think the Browns are deep enough at wide receiver to survive.
But I think it's possible, Tom, because Corey Coleman really hasn't gotten a fair shake in the NFL yet because of injuries and lack of sample size and data out there. Now, there's a team in the NFC that could perhaps use a stalwart at the wide receiver position, and Corey Coleman can be that guy. I think he has that type of ceiling. So the Dallas Cowboys make a move. 5th-round pick in wide receiver Noah Brown. That 5th rounder is conditional.
I know we got a lot of Cowboys fans watching. I am curious if they think this is too much, because I didn't think that Xavier Woods and Earl Thomas was too much. Cowboys fans felt otherwise. I know there are Cowboys fans who are big fans of Noah Brown, former 7th-round pick out of Ohio State. If you're trading for a receiver, you have to let somebody else go. So that was almost kind of a throw-in addition there, an extra wide receiver, a 5th-round pick that can become even a 4th or maybe a 3rd conditionally. Maybe it ends up being a 4th-round pick instead if Coleman stays healthy all year. But I think for the Cowboys, you get another reliable option, at least upside-wise, another potential good receiver at the position, and you do end up letting go of Noah Brown, who I like, but I don't think is going to be necessarily a long-term option.
Corey Coleman could be the wide receiver number 1.
I agree. And Zakari says good trade. Demetrius says trade Terrence Williams. T. Will has 0 trade value. That's actually a negative asset, I think, right now. I'm not surprised some Cowboys fans want T. Will gone, though.
By the way, Jordan in the comments saying hello as well. Hello, Jordan. Thank you for tuning into the program. So there you go. 1 trade for the Dallas Cowboys that could go down. All right, let's take a look at the Indianapolis Colts. They could be trading T.J. Green, the safety there.
Green is an interesting player because his rookie year was a disaster. He was just absolutely terrible for the Colts, and then he was bad to start the year here as well. And then as the year went on, he got a little bit better, but I don't know where he fits. Clayton Gather seems to be the number 2 option for the Colts behind Malik Hooker. They like Matthias Farley as well. So is Green just kind of an odd man out here, Cam? And that's my concern with Indianapolis. And you got to remember, it is indeed a new regime here for the Colts.
So we know essentially who's competing against whom here in the NFL, and that's why we can have a better idea of these trades, because we know who's the odd man out in some positional scenario. And that's kind of why we've been using that phrase throughout the show here. Now, the Colts can't show their hand, if you will, and say, hey, we're thinking about cutting this guy, because then you lose all leverage, essentially. But T.J. Green is a guy to watch out for.
So we won't spoil the pick quite yet here, because I'm going to do a rare intra-divisional trade, Cam.
Okay.
I'll go to another high round pick, also a 2nd rounder who has not turned out all that well. How about Kevin Dodd? Out of Clemson, Titans spent the number 33 overall pick, a.k.a. the 1st 2nd round selection on him, and he has 1 career sack to show for it.
So that's not good.
That's not good at all. So maybe, Cam, if you're the Titans and the Colts, you agree to make that intra-divisional trade, which is super duper rare, and you send Kevin Dodd and a pick to the Titans for T.J. Green.
This is interesting.
And I am very curious with this one, because this was probably the most roguish trade offer that I have out here for you guys. The Colts, I think, need more depth at defensive end. You go through what they have right now. I don't think it's all that good. Jabal Sheard, okay.
He's good.
I like Terrell Basham as an option. Kamiko Trey, I think, is a year away. John Simon is miscast. It has been a 2nd-round pick on Tyquan Lewis. Bring in those guys, say goodbye to John Simon, let them all compete for roles, and then in a year from now say, okay, we're going to let go of somebody else instead. Plus, you get the pick to add on to it. I think right now, T.J. Green is a better player than Kevin Dodd. As for Green, I don't love the Titans' depth chart here at safety. I think they're thin beyond Kevin Byrd. Jonathan Cyprien is a box guy only. Treywick is a special teams guy pretty much exclusively.
Kendrick Lewis
is not good, as you know.
Yeah.
And Damon Webb, I think, could be a Kirk Coleman type, but he's a year away. So I don't.
Think it's a win-win?
Maybe it also
or
might
lose-lose.
That's my fear.
It's a better way.
This is, I think, either a like or a heart-only option. I am
Yeah.
very curious what everyone thinks watching. Let me know in the comments section and with those reaction polls, because I thought of the picks I made, or the trades I made, it was kind of the most outlandish one out there in terms of most unorthodox and unusual.
Hey, it's good to get unusual sometimes. Let's take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars here. Dante Fowler perhaps being traded away to another team out there.
Do you remember Sheldon Richardson?
Yes.
That trade? This is what this one kind of reminds me of.
Okay.
Although not quite as much value, because Fowler, up and down. You see 8 sacks, only 21 tackles. That means he was at times a third down edge rusher, a rotational player. So Jacksonville would only do it if they got enough value back, because I don't know if they're going to keep Fowler after this year. They can't afford all of these players long term. They're probably going to cut either Malik Jackson or a Marcel Daria. So I have a trade idea. Fowler to the Chicago Bears for a 3rd-round pick. And Cam, I actually don't know if it's enough for the Jags to pull the trigger.
I don't think so either, Tom.
I would like a 2nd-round pick, but Chicago has no 2nd-rounder. That's an issue there.
And that's a problem,
And that's an issue. So I think the Jags would say no, but I think the Bears would jump at it. Because the Bears, they need more help at outside linebacker. Floyd, Lynch, Sam Ako, Kylie Fitz, and Isaiah Irving. Blech. Maybe Nick Kwiatkowski plays more edge rusher, but I like the fit here. Maybe, would you do it, Cam, if it was the Niners and a second rounder? Would that make more sense for you?
Jacksonville would certainly do it,
Yeah.
yes. Meanwhile, for San Francisco, I think maybe, honestly.
Okay. Maybe I should have
Fowler has the high-end draft
pedigree.
Exactly, and San Francisco has the need.
Maybe I should have flipped Lawson and Fowler's end spots then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Chicago would be able to make it happen because I don't know if Jacksonville would take a third-round pick.
It's tricky for Chicago because do you want to give up both your second and your third rounders in the same
Probably
year?
not.
I mean, you're getting good players in Fowler and Anthony Miller, but that becomes a little bit of an issue long-term
And
down the
Chicago is not in a rush to compete either, and that's the other thing. And maybe they have another high draft pick next season, so keep that in mind. All right, folks, you guys are watching NFL Daily presented by Man Crates. Do you know an awesome guy who needs a gift out there at Man Crates? Gifts are carefully curated like a museum, but actually exciting. They've got personalized barware, Tom, jerky grams, and project kits designed to delight any guy out there. ManCrates.com. Awesome gifts guys love, bringing you today's show.
Yeah, if a man in your life has a birthday coming up or an anniversary or something, don't get him a tie. Get him the perfect gift at ManCrates.com. Even drop hints to the lady in your life out there, guys, and get one for yourself.
There you go. ManCrates.com is the way to go. Let's stay in the AFC South. Take a look at the Houston Texans and Braxton Miller. Oh, Braxton. What do we do with Braxton Miller, Tom? Nothing?
Nothing? Like, you talked me down into a seventh rounder, and I actually think that was a good idea there. But Houston, they re-signed Bruce Ellington, and they drafted Kiki Cutie. They don't have a long-term option there for Miller. Like, where's he going to play? He's going to be the third
I don't know what his
guy?
role is. Like, I just don't know where
He's
he
not
fits.
the special teams guy.
No.
So I think you try and trade him, and I think there are some teams, the Bills, for example,
Sure.
that do need some wide receiver help. But I think there's another team in that region, geographically, that also makes some sense for a trade. How about the New York Giants, Cam? What do you think of it?
With a seventh-round pick involved, I like it. Now, the Giants have been at the surface of Dez Bryant rumors out there that perhaps maybe Dez could go to the Giants. They did bring in Russell Shepard. Brandon Marshall is gone. It's an interesting depth chart as you take a look. Odell, of course, is the top-line guy. Then you got Sterling Shepard out of OU, who's been pretty solid in his NFL career so far. But then it's, like I mentioned, Shepard, Latimer, Roger Lewis.
I know that they have Evan Ingram and they have Saquon Barkley. You're going to give those guys a ton of touches. But they need a third.
Yeah.
And why not take a flyer on a guy like Braxton Miller? Like, isn't he better than Cody Latimer and Russell Shepard?
He probably will be better than whatever seventh rounder the Giants get in that draft, to be honest with you.
Houston gets something for a guy that, in all honesty, they might end up cutting anyway, and that's a lot of the guys you see on this list. Late round picks, you get something back for a player that probably wasn't going to be on the roster.
All right, so who's going to say no to this deal? Neither, both the Texans or the Giants.
Giants when they signed Dez Bryant?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we'll see if they can get that done. They have a salary cap space.
We will get to Dez here in a little bit, guys. Don't worry.
We got a rumor on Dez coming up later in the show. All right, let's go to the AFC West, folks. Take a look at friend of the Cam Rogers show, Charcandrick West. Tom, say it isn't so, my man.
Well, you look at the Chiefs' depth chart at halfback, and obviously Kareem Hunt is your number one guy. They're getting back Spencer Ware, who they like a lot. And then they signed two different Williamses, Damian and Kerwin. And Charcandrick West kind of has a pretty significant cap hit at just over $2 million. Maybe he's not traded, Cam. Maybe he's just outright cut.
Yeah, honestly, he might be.
Worse for you.
Spencer Ware, Kareem Hunt, I like them a lot. And then Damian Williams is serviceable as an RB number 3.
Yeah, West and the Williams are all serviceable. Why would you pay more for serviceable when you don't?
No, I absolutely understand it. I just kind of have a personal connection to Charcandrick, and I'd hate to see him get cut.
I know you do, buddy.
How about the Indianapolis Colts, though? Maybe they make a move for Charmander, 7th round
Yes, that's
selection.
my nickname for him. Thank you.
I don't know, Tom. 7th round pick. I mean, it's interesting.
It's.
I think a cut is a very real scenario, though.
And that's why a 7th round pick. And I picked the Chiefs because, well, Chris Ballard's there. He knows Charcandrick West. And you kind of look at what the Colts have right now. Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, I like a lot. Robert Turbin is an plodding veteran. Maybe Charcandrick West is better than him. Jordan Wilkins has been a pick on. Josh Ferguson. They still have Christine Michael. the long-lived fantasy superstar Christine Michael still exists and is with the Colts.
Unbelievable.
But if there's an injury or if the Colts want a veteran presence that they're familiar with, at least in terms of the front office, I think Charcandrick West makes some sense.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs should do some cutting or some trading on that running back depth chart, and the Colts should be doing some acquisitions or some signings in some regard to help them out in terms of the running back position. So we'll see what happens going forward with those two teams, but that's a trade that we could certainly see happening. And you guys are watching NFL Daily, presented by Man Crate. So who could the Oakland Raiders be trading in this offseason? We'll get to that in a matter of moments, but first, a word from our friends at Man Crates.
Man Crates, awesome gifts for men in real wooden crates, wrapped in a cocoon of duct tape, or housed in ammo cans that are virtually indestructible. Some gifts he'll get to assemble himself. Some gifts you'll beg him to share, and some gifts are sealed inside layers of rock-solid concrete. Gifts guys love, from grilling gear to old-school video games and more. Man Crates, awesome gifts for men.
All right, Tom, we got two names to go through. We'll start off with the lesser name.
Raiders fans have been mad at me this offseason, so I'm trying to make it up to you guys by talking a little bit more about you, giving you guys two different potential players here. We'll start Seth Roberts. This is the one that the Raiders want to trade. The Raiders would take, I think, a used bag of peanuts right now for Seth. They have been shopping him since before the draft. They don't want him on the roster, but the issue is, who's going to take on the $4.4 million salary?
Yeah.
No one wants him. So right now, Roberts is the fifth guy. Cooper, Nelson, Brian Switzer. Fun fact, when Seth Roberts scores, the Raiders are undefeated.
Oh, my God.
Now,
and
maybe
that has happened twice.
Now, is that, it's happened more twice. Is that because, A, the Raiders win because Seth Roberts plays well, or is it because Seth Roberts plays well because the Raiders have already won a game?
I think it's just a lack of sample size, Tom, to be honest with you.
Exactly. So you got guys like Dwayne Harris, Johnny Holt, and Marcel Aitman who are going to compete for special teams roles there. So I found more or less the team with the most salary cap space.
You really tried on this one, Tom. I give you credit here.
A future seventh-round pick.
Yeah, 2020 to the Oakland Raiders, and the Cleveland Browns get Seth Roberts.
Maybe if Jarvis Landry gets hurt. How about that?
Maybe.
I really don't think the Raiders will find a taker for Seth Roberts because I just don't think a team wants his contract right now.
I like the depth chart for Cleveland as we stand. I like Gordon a lot. Jarvis Landry speaks for himself. Corey Coleman, when he gets a chance, he's a good receiver. Callaway, we'll see what he can do in the NFL. And then these are just kind of reserves guys as well. So for Cleveland, they don't necessarily have to do this, Tom. Now, if they do deal Corey Coleman, maybe they trade and try to get Seth Roberts shortly after. Now, for Oakland, I think the wide receiver depth chart is an interesting one because they've been active this offseason in terms of trades, getting Martavis Bryant,
they've been
getting Ryan
really
Switzer.
aggressive.
So what is us to say that they won't just make another trade again?
The interest in the player itself.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
There you go. So I think the Browns say no in this scenario.
All right, name number 2 for the Oakland Raiders. This I could see happening. Donald Penn on the move. Insert Colton Miller, your first-round pick.
You have mentioned this in the past on your own show, on the Cam Rogers show, that you think Donald Penn could be traded. And you think about it from the Raiders' perspective, Donald Penn doesn't seem to be the happiest guy the past year or so in Oakland. He wanted a new contract. He did get that. He was really upset when they drafted Colton Miller, which on one hand I get because that's your job. On the other hand, dude, you're 35 years old. You can't play forever.
You just have to have some perspective when you're gone.
So for the Raiders, Miller, Sharp, Parker, I think those guys are locked in as their top 3 tackles. Parker is very much a raw developmental type guy. That leaves Donald Penn, Vidal Alexander, Bruno Giacomoni, who's bad, and
he's just not good.
Jalen Ware as other options. You could get some value for Donald Penn, but I think it's very much dependent, Cam, on seeing, most importantly, Colton Miller being a reliable option for you at tackle. If Colton Miller isn't there yet, you can't do that trade. You just can't do it.
Now, philosophical question, should the Raiders move on from Donald Penn because he is a very much polarizing topic within Raider Nation? So
if Colton Miller is ready, yes, because you can get value back for an older player, save some money. If Miller needs a year, you can't do it because I don't think you want to set up Derek Carr for that situation.
All right, we talked about the Houston Texans earlier. They need help on the offensive line. Dwayne Brown is no longer there. Left tackle is a big-time liability. Here comes Donald.
I think Donald Penn is the perfect fit for Houston right now. You could talk me into a third-round pick if you want to. That's why I made it a conditional fourth.
Yep.
Because Julian Davenport could be your starting left tackle. He was raw coming out. I think he needs at least another year. You can get by with Henderson at right tackle. Martinez Rankin, I think, is more of a right tackle guard prospect, but maybe you try and make him into a left tackle. Even the Browns didn't want Roderick Johnson. That should tell you how bad they are at tackle. Lamb is a former tight end. They got a kid from Pitt, Jared Jones-Smith, I think is his name, who's even more raw than the other guys on the roster. So, and I think you made note of this earlier, Cam. Houston is trying to win right now. Donald Penn helps that. They have the cap space to do it right now, and you can still develop a younger guy like a Julian Davenport.
All right, so who says no to the Donald Penn deal for a fourth rounder? Let us know in the reaction poll.
Victor says send Penn to the Broncos. A, I don't think Oakland would do an interdivisional trade. B, they really like the Garrett Bowles at left tackle right now.
All right, let's take a look at the LA Chargers now. At linebacker, Kyle Emanuel. What's the sitch on him?
Well, they drafted Uchenna Nwosu. He is going to be their new strong side, their Sam linebacker, and help more in passing down as an extra edge rusher if they want that. So Emanuel kind of becomes the odd man out at that spot. LA is not the deepest at linebacker, but Denzel, Jatavis Brown, and Nwosu will be your starters at Mike, Will, Sam, respectively, I would think. I think Hayes Puller can be a good backup. Kaiser White is there. So Emanuel, I would imagine, would be the sixth guy. But if you can get a pick for a sixth guy and just say roll with, I don't know, a James Onwualu out of Notre Dame as an option, doesn't that make more sense for you? And Cam, I actually found what I think is a good fit for Kyle out there.
Yeah, let's take a look at this suitor here. The Jacksonville Jaguars getting Emanuel, and then the Chargers get a 7th-round selection. LA is more of a front-line secondary team. Usually when that is the case, your linebacking core suffers a little bit, so why not just deal one of them away?
He didn't play that many snaps last year for LA. You can get a pick. You could talk me into a 6th-round pick, because I look at the Jags. I love Telvin. I love Miles Jack. But they're going to try and play Blair Brown, I think, Cam, at the Sam linebacker spot. They're going to keep Miles Jack as the true middle. Telvin Smith out there as well. And Blair Brown, I liked him coming out of Ohio, but he's 6 foot, about 240. That's pretty small to be a true Sam linebacker. I think he's best as an inside backup. You bring in Emanuel. Now you have another starter at Sam. It's only a couple, maybe at most 20 snaps a game at most. But I saw this note on Twitter today, Cam. The Jags are one of the worst teams in terms of stopping the zone run because teams are able to get on the outside against that.
It's a great stat.
A guy like Emanuel can help stop that. 5.5 yards per carry the Jags allowed on those types of edge rushes to the outside.
The players on that Jacksonville defense are not going to get any cheaper. They're in Seattle Seahawks territory from 2011, 2012 when they had that young defensive core, a lot of them on their rookie contracts, Tom, and that's why Seattle year in and year out was making the playoffs.
Exactly.
That's where the Jacksonville Jaguars are right now.
Exactly.
All right, let's take a look at the Denver Broncos. Shane Ray has been at the center of a few NFL rumors out there, Tom, in which Ray could be dealt somewhere.
It all comes down to Denver's depth at edge. And I'm not even going to include DeMarcus Walker when I discuss this team, but you've got, obviously, Von Miller, who I've heard is really good, Cam.
He's all right.
They spent a very high pick on Bradley Chubb. I'm a big fan of Shaquille Barrett. And then they got a kid named Marcus Rush who has some hype from
his last name is Rush. Tom.
Yeah, he's a perfect player there. So you don't need Shane Ray long term. Those are your top 3 guys. Walker can play some edge rusher as well if you absolutely need him to. And Ray's in the last year of his deal, but we're going to drop down the value of him because he has a wrist injury. I think that actually could be a big reason why he might not get traded. That's going to bring down his value quite a bit.
All right, let's take a look at the deal here. We've got Denver and LA. So Denver gets a 6th-round conditional pick, Tom. The Rams, of course, get Shane Ray.
Well, you look at what the Rams have at the actual linebacker spot. Yes, they've got Sue and Aaron Donald, so you're fine in terms of rushers. But Matt Longacre, Samson Abukim, Oke at Oklahoma, Juan Price.
Remember, they traded Ogletree.
Morgan Fox just tore his ACL. They need help at the outside linebacker spot to get just one more extra edge rusher. I think Denver makes sense for Shane Ray. Plus, Wade Phillips is there.
Reunite.
That makes sense. And I see a comment from Zakaria in the comment section says send Ray to Chicago. I think that also makes sense.
Yeah, we talked about
Same
Chicago
type of
and
need
outside linebacker, that edge rusher, Leo kind of void there, Aaron Lynch and others on that depth chart as we stand. All right, so let's summarize the AFC players who could be traded this offseason. Teddy Bridgewater, Tom, I think sticks out on this first board.
And we had him going to the Panthers there. I think that the Jets are going to try and get something in exchange for Bridgewater if Sam Darnold is ready to go as a team's backup or even starter, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Shaq Mason actually makes a lot of sense as well. Could actually see that going down.
Long-term money play might not be there for New England.
All right, Tyler Boyd, Maxx Williams, Josh Dobbs, Corey Coleman. Maxx Williams and the Baltimore Ravens could be time.
Yeah, there's too many bodies there at tight end. I want to make a quick note on Josh Dobbs, who we had going to the Seahawks. I saw a comment on YouTube who said, you guys are, I'll change the word here, idiots. Alex Magoo hasn't played a snap in the NFL, and you guys are calling him trash, basically, and Austin Davis isn't that bad.
He's bad.
Well, commenter, he is bad. You also spelled his name wrong, so he can't be that good in that scenario.
He's obviously not that memorable, all
Clearly.
right? Next up on the list, TJ Green, Kevin Dodd, Dante Fowler, and Braxton Miller. Can Braxton find a role in the NFL?
Maybe as a backup receiver. I thought he was going to be good coming out of Ohio State. He was really good at some of the preseason bowls, the Senior Bowl, for example. Has not developed in Houston.
All right, then you take a look at some of the AFC West candidates. Donald Penn obviously sticks out. He's been at the surface of some rumors of late.
Yeah, I think that if the Raiders trust Colton Miller, you could see them trying to move on from Penn.
All right, so time for you guys to vote which
Okay,
player is most likely to get traded. Bridgewater, Shaq, Donald Penn, Maxx Williams.
Your 4 options. I will take Maxx Williams
Really?
because I think Baltimore will try like hell to trade him to somebody because they don't need him anymore. There's no need for him.
No, sure, there's absolutely no need for them to keep him.
And you're probably not going to get that much for him. Buddy.
I'm staring at this board, and I'm like, I don't think they trade Teddy Bridgewater unless there is an injury, Tom.
But there's going to be an injury.
Maybe.
There's always injuries.
Maybe there is a significant injury, and the Jets get a treasure chest of selections, picks, whatever the case may be. Maybe they trade him away.
Treasure chest, but sure.
I mean, it's Teddy Bridgewater. He's a good quarterback.
I love Teddy Bridgewater. I was on the hype train of Teddy Bridgewater coming out of Louisville, but I don't think he's worth that much right now.
All right, I'll give you my answer. The most likely, Donald Penn, I believe. All right, I did talk about him on my show, so I have to go with it.